So welcome everyone to this breakout session of Expo 10 on how to leverage existing quality documentation processes to share sustainability information and enable circular economy along the value chain. We have here together with us our colleague from BASF as well as S17. And I would say to kick off the session, I would directly hand over to them. So maybe Henning and Stefan, you can quickly introduce yourself, and then we're very much looking forward to your breakout session. And also to the audience, please feel free to ask questions in the chat. We're very much looking forward to an interactive session. Happy to read out the questions for you as well. Yeah, looking forward to it. And then handing over to Henning to start.
Yeah, thanks, Tamara, and very warm welcome, and thanks for joining us here from BASF and S17 side. So brief introduction to me. I'm heading an innovation program at BASF, which most of you probably know is a chemical company. And we are in this innovation program, we want to develop digital applications, solutions for our BASF customers that combine both digital innovation and sustainability innovation. And my background is in both software engineering and in chemical engineering. So over to you, Stefan.
Yes, hello from my side. My name is Stefan Kröll. Thanks everyone for joining and that you decided to spend your afternoon time with us. My professional background is the distribution of industrial materials like steel and aluminium. I was responsible in one of the bigger European distribution companies for almost 20 years. And then in 2019 decided to start up a technology company that is digitizing quality certificates, and we will talk about this in more detail within the next 10 to 15 minutes. So I just joined the panel. I was listening to the panel around circular economy, and it was, I think, a brilliant introduction also to our topic, because some of the key takeaways were the challenges around, supply chain transparency. It was also mentioned the importance of track and trace of both quality data and sustainability data. And the third topic that was also mentioned, and I took a note on, was how to provide trustworthiness around this data and data exchange. And this is pretty much the frame of the topic that we want to share with you today. For those who expected that we will go into a philosophical discussion about blockchain and its possibilities, maybe I disappoint you, because today, I mean, we love the bold plans and we all do follow them, but at the same time, we think it's very important with these key technologies to also find a starting point and I would say a launch pad where you can start actually to integrate this technology and build solutions that solve real problems. And this is exactly the approach that we took for our today's session, and also we took in our cooperation with BASF, where we simply put blockchain to work to digitize quality certificates to unlock traceability for key industrial materials like steel, aluminium, copper, and engineering plastics. So you might ask yourself now, so what are these quality certificates, and what's the problem with them? That is maybe a problem that is a little bit under the radar, but most of the industrial materials that I mentioned before, by regulatory requirements, are to be provided together with so-called mill test certificates, or so-called certificates of analysis. So these are documents that confirm the materials compliance with the customer specification, with the normative reference. And these are documents, and by the meaning of documents, that unfortunately means that this is most of the time paper or PDF, which is nothing else than digital paper. And with that, of course, there's a lot of problems connected. I mean, the biggest problem is that the content of the certificate itself, the information of the certificate, is not computable. It's not machine readable. And that means that the receiving party actually has to enter a manual process. Yeah? So have to read the information, have to interpret the information, and in most of the cases has to then manually enter the information in some other, data managing systems or, any other applications. And as you can imagine, this is a very inefficient and time-consuming process, and it's also prone to human errors and sometimes also to falsification. And if you look into the future, and as I have mentioned before, with the rising awareness of safety, with the rising awareness concerning sustainability and supply chain transparency, this is certainly not the way forward. Yeah? So compliance costs would just increase to a level where this is not feasible anymore. And when we started our company in 2019, we started with the belief that the future is certainly that we don't share documents, but we share data. Yeah? And this is exactly what we also implemented together with BASF performance materials. And if you look at the picture in the middle, then you see a fully digital representation of this document. Yeah? In the JSON format, that is a format that can be easily read by machines and can be easily processed by computers. And this is the future quality certificate that we will provide to the industry. At the same time, we respect that, for quite some good time, we need to run parallel because, still we have, humans that are looking into these documents. We have compliance departments that want to archive a document. So at the same time, together with the electronic format of the document, we continue to provide the PDF version, so to say, but this is then generated out of the fully digital standard. And the benefits that come along this new approach is basically in two directions. The first direction is immediate savings on process automation. What you can automate is all the processes around the receiving process of quality certificates. So at the goods entrance, where you want to check the content of the certificate against the specification, against the standard, that can be, of course, all done in a different way once the certificate is machine readable. The second area is that the content itself becomes machine readable. And a quality certificate consists of quite some interesting information. If you talk about steel, it's around the chemical composition and the mechanical properties, and all of this becomes analyzable, and you can use that data for other data processes, but also for adaptive process control in production. So by that I mean that for the first time it's possible to arm intelligent processing machines with really exact material data instead of data on material tolerances. And once you add sustainability data like the carbon footprint to the certificate acts as a incorruptible provenance of responsible production. Yeah? And receivers of the material and the certificate can then use the sustainability information, for instance, to calculate their own Scope 3 emissions, to run supplier audits, to take, simply procurement decisions that fit into their strategy. So now we talked a little bit about, the certificate moving from a document to a data set or a data object. But the second question is connected to the question of how we want to exchange the data between those companies. Yeah? Because you could say, this is exchanging data. This is not a new story. We have quality data, EDI, and that all works between two companies. But we understand there are a number of limitations to the current approach, and we came up with a totally new approach, which is a platform approach. Because we believe that such a solution needs to cover the whole supply chain, end to end. It's a lot of data that is being shared, and we have to provide means that this data sharing is simply becoming easier, safer, and more reliable. And using blockchain technology, we also enable that data is being shared without any middleman. That means that there's no storing of data outside the company. And at the same time, we can provide, or we can replace what used to be stamp and signature, means the trustworthy between the parties that actually exchanging the data. And here, using this platform approach at the end means that as a producer of, for instance, engineering plastics, aluminum, steel, with one single process change, you can actually move all your customers or affiliated companies simply to the new process, yeah? Because you will still get the PDF documents as they used to be, but at the same time, they have access to a machine-readable form of the certificate data. So, as I mentioned before, this is even if we think into the future and we understand that only in a few years there will be many more devices and entities connected to the internet and also to exchanging this data, then it becomes very obvious that the decentralized approach, the network approach, the platform approach is actually the only way forward. And here I want to go a little bit into more detail. And if we take now an exemplary supply chain, you can look at the picture on the left. So typically you have a material producer, you have a tier 2, you have a tier 1, you have an OEM. And if you look now at tier 1 flow of data, what you can do with our platform, or what a material producer will do with our platform, is he can first of all compose a digital certificate that is fully compliant with the regulatory requirements. A certificate can range from a simple certificate of analysis, so that is for a material, up to what is known as a so-called certificate of conformity for a part or an assembly that usually consists of multiple materials and multiple processes that have been consumed during the production. This data is then being notarized on the blockchain. So you could think of it as an industry registry, yeah, for these documents, an industry registry that then serves as we could say, a single source of truth, yeah, and is actually replacing what was before stamp and signature. And the important information here is that no information is disclosed, because what is being notarized is kind of the fingerprint of the document, but not the data itself. Yeah? So we can speak later in the Q&A actually how this is done from a technical side. And when you then look at the receiving party, in our case, this would be a tier 2 supplier, for instance, at any stage, this receiving party can then verify the authenticity and also the integrity of the data, of the certificate data, and can decide on the platform on how the data is actually piped and processed. And the interesting thing is here that you can make up your setup, for all your suppliers. Yeah? So you sign up, you do your setup, you say, okay, the PDF always has to be piped to the specific person, and the machine-readable data has to be connected to, I don't know, my ERP system. And all your suppliers that are then later onboarding will actually use the same settings. Yeah? So it's really, we really thought about how this can be integrated and how this can be really implemented into the supply chain. Yeah, we want to keep it short. So now I hand over to Henning, who will finish with our presentation, and then I'm looking forward to the Q&A session.
Yes, thank you, Stefan. So let's briefly wrap up here from our point of view as a materials and chemical producer. And again, remind ourselves why is this important? What is the motivation here, right? So BASF is, of course, like many large companies now, moving at accelerated speed to becoming a much more sustainable company. Carbon emissions, of course, is now essentially on everybody's agenda, I believe. It's also essentially in the news more or less every day now. But of course, as Stefan pointed out, many more dimensions to sustainability that have to be covered. And what's happening here is that BASF, serving dozens of customer industries, including, of course, automotive as one of our most important customers, we are essentially asked by all our customers now to enter into innovation with them to drive down not just product carbon footprint, but improve on all sustainability factors. And now the question is, of course, how to do this in a pragmatic way, right? Because everybody who has done co-innovation with customers, and especially in supply chains with more than one customer or more than one supplier, knows that this is not actually an easy task. So it's very important to aim for, let's call them achievable, feasible goals in the beginning. Oh, I don't know, you need to switch back. Who has control here? Was it slide?
It's me, sorry.
I thought I was running out of time on this slide. Now, so how do we do this? And we put this on the slide here. We need to aim for a sweet spot, right? To make pragmatic, rapid progress right from the beginning. And this is, of course, to show, as we indicated here on the right-hand side, to show immediate benefits, right? To both BASF, but also to BASF customers. And we just summarized here again, based on what Stefan just said, the immediate benefits here, paperless data transfer, immediate transparency on product carbon footprint, in addition to the quality and analysis data that are already there on these certificates. And of course, to then build additional supply chain innovation on top of the existing or the newly established digital data flow. And as Stefan, of course, pointed out already, what's really important here is to improve rather than replace processes, because to change processes is extremely hard. So we need to be clever about what to improve on existing processes. And eventually, this is about, and this is, of course, then the innovation topic and the sustainability topic. It's about desirability, about the long-term strategic angle, right? The strategic improvement potential we open up or we unlock by creating these data flows. And of course, nothing of this per se is new. It's just that we believe that pragmatic approaches like the one Stefan explained here brings us a realistic and a pragmatic step or practical step forward towards these more lofty goals, of course, that we've heard all about. Industry 4.0 and IoT in the past, right? So this is really about small but feasible and useful steps in that overall direction, which of course everybody shares. And so if you go to the next slide, so let's also briefly think about what we consider here the long-term goals, the desires we should aim for. And this is, of course, sustainable manufacturing. And we believe that this is very much tied to decentralization, to digital decentralization. And what I didn't mention before is that when customers approach us about sustainable innovation, essentially the conversation pretty much soon turns into a conversation about both sustainability and digital, right? These two topics, these two overall goals are very much joined at the hip now, as we say, right? So we know, of course, that all business is rapidly becoming digital, right? So even the word digitalization, it becomes more and more meaningless because there is nothing that cannot or that is not digital anymore, right? So if everything is digital, then digitalization is really not a useful term anymore. And on the other hand, we also believe that decentralized peer-to-peer networks, right, where all partners are in a position to innovate and are not just passive consumers, is also a very important overall trend, right? And so for us, there's a clear pathway from quality, digitalization of quality certificates, as Stefan explained, over to introducing sustainability attributes, sustainability certificates into these data flows, then organizing circular economy on top of that. And from there, the future is essentially open all the way to artificial intelligence applications in supply chains and joint optimization between different companies and so forth, right? There's obviously, as we all know, no limit to what can be achieved once these digital platforms are truly working and practical in reality. Okay, so with that we come to the last slide. maybe Stefan, you want to introduce our question to the audience here?
Yeah, so now we presented, let's say, how we look at data, at quality data, and how we look at sharing that alongside the supply chain. So the question is to the audience, what data is needed to assess sustainability? Yeah? So is it data from the direction of the use phase of the car? Is it production data? Is it supply chain data? So here we would just like to open the discussion also with a short poll, a short opinion poll that we can do directly in Hopin. Just make sure that you're on the right side on your admin panel. You should be in sessions, and you can go to poll. And yeah, probably you answer that questions, and then we look at the result and start off with the Q&A.
Great, thanks, Stefan. Maybe you can also go one slide back, as the poll is now open to vote for the audience. Yes, great. So hopefully everybody finds the poll. And then, of course, please use to vote at the poll, and then also at the Q&A session, type in your questions in the chat, type in your questions. Stefan and Henning are happy to discuss.
So I see the votes coming in. But not everyone has voted yet. I see 9 people voted out of, I think, 25 joining the session. So I would like to motivate all of you to let us know your opinion. Let's give it another couple of seconds. But I think already the result is pretty clear. Yeah, it's going strongly in the direction of that supply chain information is needed to assess sustainability. So more than 80% voted in that direction. And yeah, I think, Henning, that just confirms also or emphasizes once more on the topics that you have mentioned in your part of the presentation.
Oh yeah, that's actually an overwhelming statement here. Yeah, thanks for that.
Yeah.
Okay, so open for questions, I think.
I see one. I don't know, Tamara, if you want to moderate this or we should go directly into the questions, but I see that Andrew Heimermann asked us, what is the biggest challenges in getting other partners on board with your platform? Maybe I would like to answer this. So, I mean, with platforms, you always have the same problem. Yeah, it's the chicken and egg problem, so to say. All providers of information are eager to join the platform when they see their customers already onboarded, and all the customers are really interested in onboarding on the platform when they see their suppliers onboarded. And how we try to mitigate the challenge is by providing a supplier, that could be a material or part supplier, the possibility to use our technology for all his customers independently, if they're already signed up on our platform or not. How does it work? Because at the moment they generate PDFs out of their systems. In future, they also generate JSON files, machine-readable documents, and PDFs at the same time. Yeah. So without many of their customers even noticing it, the customers will receive, let's say, we continue to receive a PDF that is just generated with a different technology. And then, of course, on the PDF document, you can provide the information that, dear customer, the same information is available in a machine-readable form. The only thing you have to do is you have to sign up as a platform. And this is how we try to actually work with that typical platform problem.
Great, thanks, Stefan. There's another question from Joshua coming in. Which blockchain platform do you utilize? Is there a particular reason for choosing this blockchain platform?
Yes. So we are using we are based on BigchainDB, which is open source solution that is highly specialized for handling metadata. And we are looking at a platform that is really, what we have to do is we have a lot of data that is being handled. And here with BigchainDB, we simply have outstanding performance results. So we have more than 20,000 transactions per second when it comes to hashing and signing. And also, I mean, what is often mentioned in when blockchain related to sustainability is, okay, what about the energy consumption? I mean, we are running here on a permissioned network with proof of authority. So we have Byzantine fault-tolerant system without the typical energy consumption that comes with proof of work algorithms. Yeah. And another thing that is probably is good to mention here, that this network or the blockchain itself. Yeah, so for blockchain, you need people or companies. Somebody needs to operate the nodes. And our vision here is that, of course, we as S17, we have to bring the network to market. So at the moment, we are operating the nodes, but the vision is that the whole network at the end of the day is operated by the industry. Yeah? So for companies like BASF, other companies in the supply chain, so they have to be responsible for the network, to keep the network alive. Yeah? So I think this is only the only sustainable and lasting solution that also prevents some sort of vendor lock-in.
Yeah, let me also comment on that question, which is, of course, on everybody's mind as a user in the industry. So we are, of course, looking also very carefully at these questions, especially since there's a kind of a zoo of options out there, and it's very hard to find orientation in this space. So we as BASF are blockchain agnostic, let's call it, right? So we consider this a space that is going to rapidly commoditize, and where essentially a number of different options will simply be available, right? Similar to database options available in the cloud, right? Where you have probably 200 or so databases at your disposal at some cloud provider or so. So of course we are not really there yet, but I think that's a point we are going to be in a couple of years. And so it's not so important to choose a specific blockchain, but rather rely on these 2 points Stefan just made. And one is to have the right validation algorithm, yeah, like proof of authority in place that guarantees you minimal energy cost and also minimal cost overall for operations. And on the other hand, data throughput is super important, right? And there are, of course, some existing solutions today, also very prominent solutions, have tremendous difficulty, yeah, because throughput is either not available or way too expensive in practice. So if you concentrate on operational cost and on throughput, you have two very good guiding principles in place to make decisions. And then the third factor to look at is what exactly is a, let's call it, trust challenge in your customer network, right? Or in your value chain network, because this, of course, also includes suppliers. And that there, the question is really, are we looking more at a distributed trust challenge in a situation where there's essentially a, let's call it a closed club, or are you looking at a situation where public scrutiny of your operations is also important, right? Because that then also decides which exact solution you want to implement, right? If you want to be transparent to the public for some reason or another, or if you essentially run let's call it a private network, right? But a network that still is so big that the trust question cannot be resolved by centralized means alone, right? So these are all factors to take into account, and then you can make some good decisions, I believe, in this space.
Great, thanks also to Henning for adding on that. We just got another question from Safar. For BASF, what have been the lessons learned with your recycle chain project to track and trace plastic?
Yeah, the lessons learned. I just gave you a couple, I think, because a lot what we see today as our sort of decision matrix in this phase, of course, came from working on our Rezi chain projects. Actually, these are two projects. One is operating in Canada, and one is happening in Brazil. And yeah, so in summary, the most important step is, if you will, the one sentence answer is not worry too much about technology, but really dig into truly understanding motivation of your partners, both suppliers, customers, but also, if that's the case, your peer group, right, including your competitors, right, and really work really diligently on finding a strong, a robust multi-party consensus between different partners, right? Which is what is a point everybody can agree on. And from there, I think then you can make very rapid progress, and then the technology will kind of come to you. Yeah, you will certainly find the technology necessary. But building the consensus or finding the sweet spot of consensus between partners is the most important step. Oh, did we lose Stefan here?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
I'm here.
Yeah, he's
Just
logging in.
Henning. No, perfect. Welcome back, Stefan. Okay, so to the audience, is there any other question? Feel free to ask. You can also ask anonymously if you don't want to show your name. Okay. Is there anything else from you, Stefan and Henning, you would like to add or comment on?
Yeah, maybe some questions are coming up throughout the remaining time of the expo. Therefore, we also created a short landing page, so you contact us there, or you can also, here you see both the contact details of myself and Henning, so feel free to reach out. Blockchain is a team sport, as I like to say, so we would certainly like to grow the network of partners working with that solution. So maybe one or the other participant in the audience is interested. Yeah, so just reach out and let's be in contact. Yeah, and all I can add as BASF here is, of course, that we are absolutely happy also to have a sort of open chat with you about your questions around building industry networks. Also, we are absolutely open to create new contacts and have sort of conversations here with no strings attached, so to speak. Right. So feel absolutely free to approach me with any questions you have. Thank you.
Great. Thank you both. I think so far no other questions came in, but there were actually amazing final words as we're here to use our ecosystem. So I also posted the website in the chat. Feel free to reach out to Stefan and Henning for follow-up discussions. Looking forward also to connect you. And with that said, I would say thank you especially to Henning and Stefan for this very insightful and interesting session. And thanks to the whole audience, to our guests for listening and asking questions and interacting. I wish you a great expo. We have several more sessions going on, several more panel discussions and keynotes. So feel free to join other sessions as well or join our networking area. And then thanks for being here for Expo, and very much looking forward to seeing you also next time again. And yeah, great. Thanks, Stefan. Thanks, Henning.
Thank you, Tamara, and the whole Plug and Play team for the very professional organization of the event, and we are looking forward now to participate in some of the other sessions.
Yeah, thanks to everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.